Hello, today I'm working on a 2008 Volkswagen Beetle. It's a 2.5 liter. I got a knock sensor code. I looked on the internet, couldn't find out where it was. And so I found it underneath here. It's pretty easy to get to. It's in the back of the motor. I jacked up the car, put a jack stand, and it's right back here. I don't know if you can see that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this axle boot cover, this little protector metal thing. It looks like it's like two 14 millimeters, and then you got an 8 millimeter on this other little cover right there, and it's right underneath that bracket. Pretty easy to get to. See, well, this bracket, that long little thin bracket right there, that heat shield, you can't take it off really because it's in the back of the motor, and it's too hard to get to. So I just loosened up that, takes off this one right here. This one bolt right here, just so I can get underneath it. It's pretty tough, but see the knock sensor's underneath here, and that's where you got to get to, right there in front of my finger. So I'm taking off this shield for the axle boot, just because that's where the knock sensor plugs in behind that. So you just take off these two, you can actually get to where the plug is easier. This is the back of the motor towards, closest to the firewall. It's pretty easy. I'm happy it's not in the front because you got all sorts of stuff up there. See that clip with the wire? That clips on the knock sensor to this little heat shield. Oh, it keeps on going. That's a long cord. That's this all heat shield. That's not the plug. So I gotta figure out where this plug goes to once I got the knock sensor unbolted. So let me do that real quick. Let me get it looks like a 13, and this was those two bolts take off that cover were a 16. So I got the knock sensor loosened up. Hopefully that little shield's not in the way to get the bolt loose. I have to bend it up, push it all the way a little bit. Yeah, see that bolt's too long. It's hitting that heat shield, so it won't let you take out the knock sensor. I think if I get a long screwdriver and pry that heat shield back a little bit, I can get that bolt out. You go get a long screwdriver. Okay, I got the knock sensor loose. I just pried that little heat shield away a little bit so you could get the bolt out. Oh, that's nice. The two knock sensors are bolted together. They ran up the top together. So mine is bank 1. I gotta figure out which one is bank 1. So I'm gonna take out that other knock sensor right there to get the cable out and just replace bank 1 knock sensor. That's the code I'm getting. Knock sensor 1, circuit low input, bank 1. I scanned it before, but I didn't really pay attention because usually knock sensor, it's knock sensor, but I didn't realize this bug had 2. So let's see which one's bank 1, sensor 1. Well, I got the 2 sensors disconnected down below, fouled the wires up, and here where they are, right at the side of the valve cover. I'm gonna just take these out, unplug them, pull up the pull up the wires and figure out which one's bank 1. Obviously, probably the bank 1 cylinder, so cylinder 1. So then I'll get the right sensors. I'm going to make sure that these are 2 different sensors. Looks like there's 2 different plugs, so it should be 2 different sensors. But they run down this tube that goes down back here behind the motor. So let me see how to figure out how to get that out. Pretty basic. I loosened up this, took off this hose just a little bit because this wire runs in between there. There's a little plastic clip you can probably get in there with a pair of needle nose to pry it out, which holds this to this little clip, and then it should fall out the bottom. Okay, they're out. They're right through here, but I tell you, that fit is so tight. They had to put these knock sensors in when the motor wasn't even together. You know, they don't really think about having to replace this stuff later on. But I'm gonna go get I'll be able to pull it right out of the bottom of the car now, and figure out which one is bank 1. They're color coded, so it's easy to plug them back in. It's a short one and a long one, so I know which one went where, and that's that. You can see the plastic coating is all cracked up, but put it in the opposite way. It's pretty snug fit where it goes up. I'm gonna run it around that tube and not do that little opening. There's plenty of room and there's plenty of wire for it to go around. But you know, I hope this gave you some information. I didn't even know where it was located, but it's right there in the back of the motor. That bolt, that hole, and there's one over there. And I just pried this little tin thing up a little bit so I can get the bolt out. Once you unscrew the bolt, you couldn't get it out because it hit the tin, but I just pried a little bit, push it back in, and bolt it back up to this little 8mm right here, and be good as old. Okay, so back to working on the 2008 Volkswagen Beetle, the 2.5. This is the engine cover, so if you're standing outside the car looking at the engine, okay, the driver's on the right, passenger's on the left, these are your knock sensors. There are 2 of them. There's a long one and a short one. The only reason it's shorter is because it's got less distance to go. So behind the motor, closer to the firewall, you have these 2 knock sensors. My code said knock sensor, bank 1, sensor 1, okay? This is the first one because it's closer to where the pulleys are. That's your number 1 cylinder. So this is the one that I have to replace. If you look at the video earlier, you'll see that these were both of these were together with these protective covers. I replaced them because they all broke up because the heat makes them brittle. So I changed them out, got to the auto parts store, and bank 1 is the green plug. So I'm replacing this bank 1, this first sensor, with the new green one. And it goes over here where the intake is and where the mass airflow sensor is. It comes around the back of the motor up and plugs in. So I'm gonna put this together and put it in. Okay, so I put the 2 knock sensors together. I put this plastic coating over it. I made them so that they can still move in there because these wires are gonna have to be adjusted once you line them up. And then this foil thing was on the old one. It has little snaps. I'm not gonna put that on until I got it in there and put this where it protects it from the heat. There's also little clips that hold these together. I'm not gonna clip those on. And then this is a clip underneath the car where it holds the wires in place. I'm not gonna put that on until it's in place also. This is the cover for the axle boot. It's a shield maybe for rocks or just plastic for rocks. But I'm gonna put that on. It made it easier to get to the wires and get to the plugs. So let's put this in and run the wires, and hopefully that makes my check engine light come off. I ran the wires up from the back. I disconnected this tube and ran the wires around there. In fact, it's probably better to run them outside of this because that'll keep it away from the heat. Put that back on. I plugged in the plugs. I had to disconnect the air tube, like I said, the air tube. And so I can put that back on. All the plugs are plugged in. The secondary hoses are all plugged in. Put this back on, put the clamps back on, and then I'll go back under and I'll tighten up the knock sensors. I didn't tighten them up yet because I want to make sure they're where I want them and I can put them, I can reach everything. So I have the O2 sensors. Everything's back together. The little bracket here, that heat shield, this little cover for the axle boot. I ran the wires up, I clipped them in, tightened them up. So now I'm gonna lower the floor jack, start it up, clear the coat, and hopefully that takes care of that. So the cover's back on. The plugs are all plugged in, they're color coordinated, so it's can't really mess that up. Tubes back on, mass airflow sensor, all these tubes are hooked up, so let's start it, clear the code, and hopefully the check engine light stays off.